College football what-ifs are quickly becoming the most popular segment on this show, and that is simply us looking at some things that could happen. Maybe they're not predicted to happen, but they could happen, and if they do, the reverberations would be felt far and wide. And the first one tonight, and producer Jesse and I were mining through some of your tweets, and we got a lot of ideas from you. The first one comes from Nathan. Listen to this. If you're listening on podcast up there in Madison, Wisconsin, or Lincoln, Nebraska, listen to this one. Nathan says, hey, what if someone besides Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State wins the Big Ten? Any chance we see that in the near future, especially with conference eliminating the divisions? Well, the big three that he mentioned there, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, they have won 7 straight. They are the big three for a reason. They are the favorites, obviously, in that order, I believe. Let me backtrack, because they still have divisions up there. If you shuffled everything like they're going to do next year and beyond, these would be the clear 3 slam dunk favorites in some order or another to win the conference. As it stands, they're all in the same division, and so we're going to do away with that after this upcoming season. But the way I figure this is one of 2 things have to happen for someone other than Ohio State, Michigan, or Penn State to win the Big Ten. Either somebody just comes out of nowhere and wins the Big Ten East, and that is unlikely. That would be your Marylands or your Michigan States. Not impossible, highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. So either that happens, or someone just pulls a mild to moderate upset in the Big Ten championship game. Now, what I want to do is I want to remind you, Wisconsin is currently favored to win the West. So they're favored to be there. What that means in the Big Ten West, I don't really know, but let's just play it out for argument's sake. Let's say that the odds makers are right, and let's say Wisconsin, with a preseason over-under win total of 8.5, let's say Luke Fickell and the Badgers, they arrive in Indianapolis, they're playing whomstever. Could be Ohio State, could be Michigan, whatever the case may be. I can tell you right now what kind of upset it would be. And I can tell you that because Ohio State goes to Wisconsin this year. And due to our crack stats and info department, I've been informed Ohio State is a 10-point favorite on the road at Wisconsin. Now, Ohio State and Michigan have about the same odds. They would be favored by about the same amount against Wisconsin wherever they played. So, using simple mathematics, we just add 3 points that Wisconsin gets for that home field advantage if those 2 teams were to meet in Indianapolis, and we find out that Ohio State would be about a 13 or a 14-point favorite against the Badgers. So would Michigan if they played in the Big Ten championship game as it stands right now. That's all we have to go on. Like Christopher Walken said in Wedding Crashers, we have no way of knowing what the future holds. You just have to make the best decisions given the facts at hand. How big of an upset would that be? The answer is pretty big. Not monumental, not some catastrophic upset. So yeah, if this were to be a what if that happens, if a Wisconsin or imagine if Iowa just won the Big Ten. If that happened, it would be a big shakeup, and think about what it would do to the college football playoff picture. Not even knowing what the rest of the country has in store. Think about what that would do. Think about also what it would mean for the coaching market up there. If someone else wins the Big Ten, that by default means Ohio State didn't. Maybe they didn't even go to the Big Ten championship game. So, yeah, there's a lot of ramification there if anyone other than the Big Three wins the Big Ten. All right, next up, we go down south for a second, immunity. Edwards said, does Tennessee pick up where they left off and potentially change the balance of the SEC? Interesting word there, balance. I'll tell you why in a second. For Tennessee to make some leap this year, what has to happen? Well, the first thing you need to remember is where they left off. They were 10-2 last year, and then 11-2 once they won the bowl game. They were 6-1 versus top 25 competition. Of course, Director Colin and I were in the house for the earth-shaking, college football landscape-altering upset over Alabama. The goalpost goes out. I would be lying if I said we did not assist in the carrying of that goalpost. Does that make us homers of Tennessee? No, it just makes us participants of a field storming. We don't get fined. Who cares? And so, yeah, all that happened last year. Well, how are you springboarding from that? The way I see it, the only thing you can do is go 11-1 or better. The way I see it, you can only go to the SEC championship or bust. You probably have to either beat Georgia or, yes, you have to beat Georgia because there is no way they're beating you and then losing 2 other conference games. Georgia plays Shaw High School at some point on their conference slate this year. So Georgia's not losing 2 games in conference outside of Tennessee. I am sorry to spoil it for you. That's just the way it is this year, Bruce Hornsby. So making the leap would equal doing some things they haven't done up there in a while. But he just mentioned in the question, would it restore balance to the SEC? Well, think about balance here, because we've never truly had it, but we kind of have. So it would not shock you to know that since 1977, we have had 6 teams win the SEC championship. And those are Bama, Georgia, Florida, LSU, Auburn, and Tennessee. My college-age audience does not believe that the caboose on that 6-pack, Tennessee, you don't believe that's true, but there was a time in many decades, actually, multiple decades, where Tennessee was rattling off SEC championships right up there with the best of them. Tennessee was one of the most feared brands in college football. Going into Neyland Stadium was for everyone what it was for Alabama last year. Remember the lead up to that week? I kept trying to explain the third Saturday in October, or mixed up the words there, the third Saturday in October and what it means. And people were calling BS in the live chat. I got slandered in my own live chat. Yeah, I remember. And then it happened, and then all of a sudden people were like, oh, that's what that game's all about, huh? Well, that's what Neyland Stadium used to all be about. That was what it was always like there. And then it kind of waned a little bit. And then all of a sudden, what used to be Rocky Top, Neyland Stadium, all of a sudden people talked about the Swamp more. People talked about Death Valley more. They should have always talked about those places. I'm just saying Neyland Stadium kind of got shuffled to the back of the pack. Well, if this happens, you would have, obviously, the Tennessee brand reemerge at the forefront, and Neyland Stadium would ascend to its rightful place right there atop the 3 or 4-way tie at the head of the SEC for bragging rights of best home field advantage. So, yeah, they make a leap. That's great. They got an uphill battle to do it, not because I expect some massive drop-off from Tennessee, but it's hard to do what they did last year. It's very hard to do that. Next up, let's go to Manhattan, Kansas, the Little Apple, as they call it. What if Kansas State is better than last season? Oh, look, a spoiler. They will be? I don't appreciate when you guys just ruin the season for me by telling me what's going to happen. You know that. Spoken to you about that before. But if you must, here we go. Kansas State. So they're going to be better, says K-Statriot. They're going to be better this year. Well, they were 10-4 last year. That was the first 10-win season there since 2012. Need I remind you? Yes, I do. They won the Big 12 last year. Not the team that went to the national championship game, TCU. That is not the team that won the Big 12. I am already convinced that a majority of college football fans have misremembered history, and they just have TCU as the Big 12 champ for 2022. Nope, that's not what happened at all. So, if this does happen, well, the first thing it would do is it would probably insert them into the Big 12 championship game. If they won it last year and they're better, I think we have to deduct from that maybe they got a really good shot at winning it this year. If that happens, hey, how about the slam dunk on the face of Texas and OU on the way out the conference door if it goes down that way? It's great for Kansas State because, well, they have another good year. And also they are positioning, like everyone else is out there, for a post-Sooner Longhorn world in the Big 12. They would be sort of the big dog on the block, would they not? That would be back-to-back conference titles. Chris Kleiman, by the way, if you take out that COVID year, his last 3 years have been 8 wins, 10 wins. And they are not a recruiting powerhouse. In fact, 3 of their last 4 classes, they finished outside the top 50. This last cycle, they finished 32nd. Like, that's far and away the best class they've had. And yet, I got to see them up close against Oklahoma State last year. That was just a bloodbath. That was a splattering. There was just a cowboy all over the place. And they were really good all year. So if they're going to be better, like I said with Tennessee, it's not impossible. That's a tall hill to climb, though. And lastly, in the what-if department for this evening, what if Colorado's transfers live up to the hype? That's from Peter. The hype is substantial around Colorado, specifically because of all the transfers. Their over-under win total's 3.5. So anyone out there who tells you if they win 5 games and miss out on a bowl that it was a bust of a season, they're wrong. I heard Deion talking the other day. I have heard what he said about his expectation level for year one. His expectation level should be that. A reasonable person who has to bet money one way or the other. Someone forced you. Someone breaks down your door right now. They're not there to kidnap you. They're not there to steal any of your prized possessions. It's one of those weird deals where they are breaking and entering only to force your hand on betting the Colorado over-under win total this year. Whomst amongst us hasn't been there a time or two. You have to make a decision based on the information at hand. And if that over-under win total is 3.5, I don't think any one of you saying, oh, give me the over. They're winning 9 games. They don't have to. But if these players, if this transfer class lives up to the hype, they will hit that over. Because that hype, like I said, it's pretty substantial. That balloon keeps getting bigger and bigger. We're not even to media days yet. And so it would probably mean Deion Sanders had a breakout year at quarterback. It would probably mean they stayed healthy too, like really healthy. Travis Hunter probably has the breakout year to end all breakout years in the Pac-12. Whoever the Pac-12 player of the year is, outside maybe like Caleb Williams or Michael Penix or someone, is probably on the Colorado roster. It would also make a lot of college football rethink their theories and philosophies behind team building. Because as I told you about a month ago, and as I'll tell you again now and continue to tell you, a lot of coaches don't think this is going to work. A lot of coaches are looking at it. I'm not going to say they're rooting for it to crash and burn, although I think some of them are rooting for it to crash and burn. But at the very least, a lot of them are skeptically looking at Boulder, Colorado, saying, there's no way that's going to work. I don't know what to believe. You'll notice when we've talked about Colorado on the show, I have shied away from making any kind of bold proclamation. I like Deion Sanders a lot, but that's not a bold proclamation. He could succeed there. He could fail there. I'm in the wait-and-see category. Mima always told me one of the best skills you could have as a man is saying, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen at Colorado. I know they think they know out there, but I will tell you this, if you were to spoil the ending for me in this what-if scenario and you tell me that transfer portal class is going to live up to the hype, then I would lean the way of Deion Sanders when it comes to predictions for this year. The what-if game is going swimmingly. I mean, that thing is delivering for us and delivering in a big way. Because look, here's what would happen. What would happen is I would text Jesse Sunday morning, give him time to wake up, so about 5:30 or 6 a.m. Jesse, what are we talking about on tonight's show? And then he would give me his suggestions. I would ignore them and go with what I wanted to go with anyway. I just wanted him to feel heard. But sometimes even I wouldn't have a good idea. But now you guys have come to the rescue, and we got all kind of what-ifs, and it's just like an endless supply of content. In June, no less. Whom stood have thunk it?